After successfully assigning resources into the program, let's move on to assigning the expenses. As you could see, the resources are assigned against activities and leveling has been discussed in the previous section. Now we can go on adding the expenses. The expenses are non-resource cost associated with project and it is assigned to the project activities. They are typically one-time expenditures for non-reusable items. It is like a lump sum cost. Some of the examples are facilities, travel, overhead, insurance, training, materials. You can categorize expenses by indicating unit of measures for expenses and specify whether an expense at the end or at the start or it is prorated over a period of duration. Each expenses has budgeted cost, actual cost and estimated remaining cost. We have to customize the columns of the expenses. Right click on the expenses, customize expense columns, right click. We have to select expense item, expense category, accrual type can be at the last, unit of measure, we have to add unit of measure, budgeted units, price per unit and budgeted cost. Price per unit, budgeted cost. Actual cost, remaining cost can be entered. We don't need vendor. The auto compute actuals can be at the last. Click apply, click OK. So we have set the expense format in the tabs. Now we can proceed to assign the expenses. Let's continue to assign expense cost to the activities, selected activities. For example, for design plan preparations, there will be an expense of administrative cost. So select training of staff in this expense category. Select training, either budgeted units 1, unit of measure lump sum LS, price per unit $200, remaining. So you have to make sure to select accrual type, whether it is start of the activity or end of the activity or uniform over activity. So we select uniform over activity and you can choose auto compute actuals. Select auto compute actuals. Similarly, continue to assign different kind of expenses, like for authority submission there will be an expense of permit under expense category, administration $1,000, 1,001 units, measure LS 1,000, select auto compute actuals. And for remaining items can continue to add some of the expenses, like for PCC and rebar works, facilities we need to provide in facility, units 2 units, again LS lump sum, $150 per unit, it's a 300. So let's continue to add expenses for remaining activities. Expense, facility 1, expense category, equipment or administration to LS lump sum price per unit again 150. So we have added the expenses, assigned expenses to few activities here. Now how this is going to affect the cost, total cost. So I'll select auto compute actuals. I want to show you how the assigned resource cost and expense cost are coupled to combined to generate total budgeted cost. Right click in the columns. Now we don't require the activity level priority, so we move out of these options. Calendar is not required, resources is fine. Then go to the cost in the available options, click on the cost, then select budgeted expense cost, budgeted labor cost, budgeted material cost, budgeted non-labor cost, budgeted total cost. Click apply. If you could notice, the expenses which we have added for first floor column facility 1, the budgeted total cost of expense is 300. It is being reflected in this 300 total cost. Then you can see the labor cost $840, material cost $168,000 on non-labor cost. When you combine expense cost, labor cost, non-labor cost and material cost, you will be getting in budgeted total cost. So this is how the cost has been loaded into the program. So the total cost of budgeted expense cost is $2,000, labor cost is 13,000, material cost is 252000, and budgeted non-labor cost is 1100. So total is 2,536,000 for the entire project. This is how you get the cost loaded program. You can only keep the budgeted total cost after deselecting. Click apply.